Ah, jeez. Well, I can't think of who's in the 1983 World Series. That doesn't spin. I know that in 1984 the Tigers won. 1983? I don't know. So here are some guesses. Maybe the Brewers.
Brewers had a team?
The Brewers had a team. That's one nomination, the Brewers. Another safe nomination would be the Yankees. It's always safe to guess the Yankees. But I really don't know what was going on with them in '83. I think maybe Reggie Jackson was already gone. I can't imagine who was on.
Reggie.
He might have been on the Angels by then. I don't know. All right, so that's the Yankees. Another good guess is the Cardinals. They seem to win a championship every now and then.
Was Reggie? He's the one that everyone said Reggie for, right? Or was it Chili Davis over there? Chili.
Both of those names lend themselves to saying their name, syllable by syllable. Nobody's going to go, Mike. That does not get you pumped up to swing a bat. That's like, guys.
That's true.
Don't do that right now. I'm trying to play baseball.
We're making laws here. That's the law of name rooting.
All right, so when you're rooting for somebody just by using their name, they've got to, I think, have a minimum and maximum of 2 syllables. I think it's a guts-to-have situation.
Yeah. And that's without any ad-libbing in there, like, let's go, Mike. Let's go, Mike.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's just got to be their name. But let's try a 3-syllable word, but let's do it like this. I'm not saying they did this for Mark McGwire, but what if they go like, McGwire? That actually sounds more like a taunt, though.
It does sound like a taunt. And it sounds like you could really kind of like sing it in different harmonies. You could harmonize that.
It gets to, like, if you're sitting in the right field pavilion, you sing the tenor part. Center field, you guys got bass.
McGwire.
We haven't done Sonnet 24. Isn't that crazy? I felt like we had done them all, but we had neglected to do Sonnet 24.
All right. So I've got Shakespeare's Sonnet number 24 pulled up here.
And you're on Shakespeare. I don't know why every single week I announce our websites. I think also just to remind people, we are not on the same website. Therefore, the interpretations, the actual words, sometimes are a little bit different.
Yeah, I think people are thinking, why the hell aren't they on the same website?
Sure, that would seem like it would make sense. But I think we figured it out on accident. I think it's cool that we're on 2 different websites, but we didn't start doing that on purpose. I said Sonnet 24, and we both started reading Sonnet 24, and for the first few weeks, all the words were exactly the same, and then one day it was like, what, you have that word? I have a slightly different word.
Yeah.
And it was a good education for us that depending on the publication, the actual words of these sonnets might be different.
Sometimes it's pretty important words.
The difference between books and looks. We were like, well, if it's books, this is the explanation. If it's looks, this is the explanation. But it's pretty important that you know which word it is.
Okay, so Sonnet 24. Jumping in?
Jumping in. Mike, read us Sonnet 24.
Mine eye hath played the painter, and hath steeled thy beauty's form in table of my heart. My body is the frame wherein 'tis held, and perspective that is best painter's art. For through the painter must you see his skill, to find where your true image pictured lies, which in my bosom's shop is hanging still, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. Now see what good turns eyes for eyes have done. Mine eyes have drawn thy shape, and thine for me are windows to my breast, where through the sun delights to peep, to gaze therein on thee. Yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art, thy draw but what they see, know not the heart.
What a mess.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Man, it's kind of hard to get that all off without stumbling on any words.
Oh, I was not judging your reading at all. I was just
I thought you were talking about me. What if like you're super disappointed in me?
Why do I have you on this show? That is terrible. No, not at all. How could you not have defended yourself right away if I had said what a mess. How could you not have said, what are you talking about? That poem made no sense.
I think partially because I somewhat agreed with you. At first I was like, it's really hard. Okay, yeah. So you mean what a mess in that it's really hard to interpret, like on a blind read.
Right, where I'm just trying to do it on the fly, trying to figure out where everything lines up, and I'm like, nope, I'm lost.
Okay, so my initial thoughts from remembering what I read, there's a little bit of conceptualizing what beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's kind of what I was feeling.
Yes.
So, like, what I draw and what I'm able to draw may not be as beautiful as you actually are. And I don't mean draw like... Well, I do mean that, but
He's saying the word draw, but we're probably going to interpret it as him writing poems. We always do that.
Yeah.
That's one of our moves that we've learned. Like, maybe he's writing about his writing. This guy was very obsessed with his own writing. All of his poems are, hey, I'm writing a poem. Look at me. Look at me go. All right, so let's say that's what this poem's about.
Well, that's just my initial kind of knee-jerk interpretation. What's yours?
Now it's that. Oh, I can't get that out of my mind now.
Okay,
that's
perfect.
it for sure. Whatever I had in there before, which was probably nothing, has been replaced by this. All right.
All right, so from the top then.
From the top.
Take us down line by line here.
Mine eye hath played the painter. And
what a mess. What a mess.
From the top again. Clean it up. And smile a little bit when you perform, please. Smile. All right. Mine eye hath played the painter, and hath stelled thy beauty's form in the table of my heart. Was that a much better read?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, thank you.
You should be wearing one of those Shakespearean collars.
Didn't we say that in your closet you would probably have, 3 or 4 of them? How many would you need? Yeah. Maybe just the one. Is this a collar night? I'll wear the collar. Not have a choice.
I'd have a paisley one.
Can you imagine? Here's the problem with having a choice. If you put one on and then looked in the mirror and you're like, no, I'm going to go with the other one. That looks like it's a lot of work. You got to take that enormous collar off and then put another one on.
That's true.
I think you want to limit your choices. I just have the collar or no collar. You want me to wear a collar tonight? I'll wear. Why don't you get another collar? I'm not getting another collar.
We went over this when we were at the store.
I said I don't want choices.
The collar store.
Where choices make you king. But look, choices make you king. Mine eye hath played the painter. My viewpoint. Yes, we're talking about my point of view. And hath stelled thy beauty's form in table of my heart. Stelled?
Stelled, I'm looking up.
So it sounds maybe like I have painted in my memory how beautiful you are.
Okay, let's see. To steal. Mentally preparing oneself to do or face something difficult.
Okay. I've heard that term before. Maybe an athlete would do it.
Yeah.
Maybe they would write that in Sports Illustrated. In Table of My Heart. In Table of My Heart sounds to me like keeping records in your heart. So like, I've written down, okay, you are beautiful.
That's good.
That goes in notation here. All right, next item.
I'm filing it away.
Yes, okay, so it's in the cabinet now. My body is the frame wherein 'tis held, and perspective it is the painter's art.
And boy, my line right there goes, and perspective... Whoa. Sorry. Something just fell. Okay, starting over.
What fell? I want to know what fell real fast.
It was a picture that was just sitting on my desk.
Okay. You and your wife?
No, it's actually Rin Tin Tin.
Yes, that is such a good answer. Oh, wait. You mean Tintin.
Oh. What's the difference between Tintin and Rin Tin Tin?
Rin Tin Tin is a dog.
Doesn't he have a dog?
Well, yes, but I don't think that dog is Rin Tin Tin.
Really? That's confusing.
Yes. Well, Tintin. Oh, I'm going to show my ignorance here. It's a comic book from some other country, maybe France. I don't know. I'm so sorry if it's not France, and I'm very sorry if it's from like the south side of Chicago and not even. Okay. No. Okay. So it's about, yeah, and yes, he has a dog and a bicycle, but I really don't know what else happens in his life. Rin Tin Tin, I think, was Lassie's rival. Like you had Lassie, everybody was into Lassie, and then there was Tintin. I don't know what I don't know, maybe he had a job, maybe he was a cop. I really
he prevented Lassie from getting back to his home or her home.
No.
He
Okay,
ran interference.
You misinterpret me. I don't mean that he was Lassie's rival in the Lassie movies.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there was another show called Rin Tin Tin in which he was the star. So it's like, hey, let's watch a dog show. Which one do you want to watch, Lassie or Rin Tin Tin? Let's go with Rin Tin Tin tonight.
Let's watch the one where Rin Tin Tin runs interference on Lassie.
Again, for those of you listening, I don't want you to take Mike's words to heart. There is no overlap between Lassie and Rin Tin Tin. Completely different universes. It's like Star Wars and Star Trek. They just don't exist on the same plane.
Okay, so my line right there says, "And perspective that is best painter's art."
Well,
what's yours say?
And perspective, it is the painter's art. So great. There's an example of how different these publications are. I'm calling Shakespeare-online.com a publication.
Does yours say "and perspective, comma, it is"?
No. And perspective, it is the painter's art.
My body is the frame wherein 'tis held, and perspective that is best painter's art.
Is there much of a difference between what those two things mean?
I actually am not too sure what either means.
That's a good point.
So I guess no, there is no difference.
Well, but they could mean, if you don't understand either of them, then no, there is a huge difference right now. You need to figure out each one of them and then decide if they're the same and whether or not you can get rid of one.
Okay, so I think what it's saying is a painter's skill lies in his perspective.
So it's not his brush strokes or his technical ability or even the color he uses or anything about painting it itself. His actual art is seeing things better than we do.
Yeah, in like a painter's eye or something.
Yes, he uses his painter's eye.
Let's try it. Maybe the next line will kind of help us.
For through the painter must you see his skill, to find where your true image pictured lies, which in my bosom shop is hanging still, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes, not within.
Okay, so that's his heart, right?
So my heart, what's his heart?
Within my bosom shop is hanging still.
So your image, your beauty, is still inside of my heart, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. Drawing a blank on that. For through the painter must you see his skill. My first instinct was saying, you look at his work, and that's how he represents his skill. Or, okay, I guess it's, for through the painter must you see his skill. If you look from the painter's perspective, you find where your true image pictured lies. So say I'm going to paint a portrait of you.
Okay.
And I do a really good job. And then, so as you look at your portrait, you see yourself with my eyes.
Ah, okay, I see.
So it's like you're saying, that's what Scott sees when he looks at me.
Oh, nice. I think I agree with that, yeah.
Which in my bosom's shop is hanging still, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. It's weird because I feel like he goes back and forth from talking about himself as the painter and then talking about just this example of a painter.
Yeah.
Like, I am the painter. You know, the painter who does that, a painter who does this or that, because painters do this and that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. moving on. Okay, we were able to clean up the first stanza with the second stanza. Let's clean up the second stanza with the third. And I should be saying quatrains because that's the cooler word to use. Okay. Now see what good turn eyes for eyes have done. So see how good it is that you have looked at through my perspective.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. It's really staying in line with what you said.
It's taken form here. All right. Mine eyes have drawn thy shape, and thine for me are windows to my breast, where through the sun delights to peep, to gaze therein on thee. So it's good things have happened since you've looked through my perspective, because I have revealed yourself to you, and you have actually opened up my heart. I'm more transparent. You've cleared away the clouds, and now I can see my own heart. See how unconfident I got at the very end? Put that question mark at the end. Da-da-da-da.
Where through the sun delights to peep. I think he's just referring to the fact that now his chest is open. You know, it's no longer something hidden.
Yeah.
Our windows to my where through the sun delights to peep, to gaze therein on thee. Because of how open you've made me, you know, the sun even is able to shine upon the beauty that is the art that I've drawn, which is you.
So then that quatrain actually is pretty beautiful, and actually those last words, to gaze therein on thee, is very sing-songy in a very nice way, if we're right about this.
Yeah.
Now see what good turn eyes for eyes have done. Mine eyes have drawn thy shape, and thine for me are windows to my breast, where through the sun delights to peep, to gaze therein on thee. It's very sing-songy. I like it.
Sounds great.
Yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art. They draw, but what they see know not the heart. I really thought that the end was going to just pop and I was going to get it, and I didn't quite get it.
So I think that he's saying a little bit there about beauty being skin deep.
Okay.
And, you know, the eyes kind of trick what is actually inside. The eyes trick you into thinking something is beautiful both inside and out.
Yes.
Yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art. They draw what they see, know not the heart.
And that's no, for those of you who are listening but not reading, that's no, K-N-O-W.
Oh, yeah.
When he says, yet eyes this cunning, is it the painter's eyes or the subject's eyes?
Oh, I think it's the subject eyes.
Okay. So there's something about your eyes that want to grace their art. But then he says they draw but what they see. So that sounds like he's talking about the painter again.
No, I think, you know, like if I'm standing here looking at a Van Gogh,
okay,
and I'm envisioning, you know, what he has painted.
Uh-huh.
I think that envisioning is what he's referring to here, and they draw what they see. So like they envision what they want to see.
Uh-huh.
They don't know what's actually inside.
Okay, so I look at Van Gogh, or I read Shakespeare, and I try to interpret it, but I don't really know what's going on with the artist. I know not their heart.
Yeah. So that heart, do you think he's referring to his own, like, you know, how he referred to earlier that the image lies within his chest, his bosom?
I think that it's the painter's point of view, and he's saying that I am drawing what I see, but I'm making myself see something even better, because I don't really know what's in your heart. I can't know it for sure, but I'm drawing this image that I've created in my mind.
Yeah, all right. I see that too. I think that makes sense.
Mine is a little sadder.
Yeah. Mine's a bit more, like, doesn't make immediate sense, I think, because yet eyes this cunning want to see their grace. Being able to see a beautiful image within somebody's... So being able to see an artist's beautiful drawing or picture and not knowing what was in their heart at the time of them drawing the picture, that was the point I was trying to get at, but I don't know if that makes much sense beyond, that the base meaning of what I said right there.
I think it does mean something what you said, and even if it's not the correct answer, which by the way is funny that we just trust the sources that we read and say that's the correct answer. There's no way ours is the correct answer. That never enters our mind. We just scrap our ideas right away. Yeah. But no, I want to make a case for yours right now because yes, even if it's not one of the interpretations, I really like it as a sentiment that as much as we can look at a piece of art and feel like the way it's making us feel, it gives us a window into the soul of the artist, where we say, I think I know a little bit something about Quentin Tarantino, because I've seen Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction like 30 times each, so I could tell you exactly what's going on with Quentin Tarantino. But really, no, you don't know him. You don't know what's in his heart. You're just rating him based on his art.
Yeah, that's exactly... that's really well put, because that's exactly what I was thinking that meant. But I don't know. I don't know if that means anything in the context of this sonnet.
Well, I know that Shakespeare was a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, so it might be part of it.
You really liked Inglourious Bastards.
That was the one. That's the one that really, where you really started taking him seriously. All right. But, yeah, so I really liked your pitch, but I'm going to stick with my pitch, okay. Which is that the painter yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art. So to grace their art, what would grace and grace their art mean? To make better, to bless, like you grace us with your presence, you make things better that you're here. If you are able to perceive things that well as an artist, because again, that's a real artist's art, is to perceive things. So if they do it really well, don't you think that also as artists they would want to kind of make things perfect for their art? They paint what they want to paint, but they don't really know what's inside you. Maybe he's saying that that's not what I do though. Maybe he's saying that's what other lesser poets do.
Oh,
what
yeah,
I do
yeah,
is
yeah.
paint the... Remember how he says that sometimes. That's one of his moves. Like, I tell the truth, everybody else is a liar.
And here's the reason why they lie or something.
It's like he's constantly in an Academy Award campaign.
So let me ask something. When he says, yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art.
If you were a great painter and could see things really well, when you go to paint, you would see the most beautiful things about them because that's what you might want to paint. You want to grace your art. You use your clever eyes to see not oddly shaped ears, but a regally framed face with sharp features. You know?
Yeah. The more I read it, I think you're onto something when you reference that he may be suggesting that this is what other artists do.
Yeah. Hey,
you
beware other artists. Okay, they fabricate, not me.
Yeah. So like these other artists, they want to, I don't know, do honor to their art and maybe their own name. The fact that they are Van Gogh, they're gracing their art, and then even those guys, they draw what they see, but they don't know, what's inside the heart.
Yeah, they don't know you. I know you.
Let's read it from the top and see if if anything we said sticks.
Okay. So
yeah.
now we got some ammunition here. All right, so we're going to go from the top. Mine eye hath played the painter, and hath stelled thy beauty's form in table of my heart. My body is the frame wherein 'tis held, and perspective it is the painter's art. For through the painter must you see his skill, to find where your true image pictured lies, which in my bosom shop is hanging still, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes.
Okay, stop right there. I have an idea.
Yes.
If you think in these first two quatrains that he's talking about the difference between the person's image being ingrained in my heart that I've
Uh-huh.
drawn with my own eyes
Yeah.
versus what an artist would draw.
Uh-huh.
I think that that's kind of what he's doing here. He's saying that there's a difference between how an artist would draw you and how my heart draws you.
Yes. So when he goes to draw, he uses his skill and his precision and his technical merit. But what I have done is I've just taken that image of you and I've held it in my heart where it's still completely true.
Yeah.
He has a lot of faith in memory.
Muscle memory, because the heart's a big muscle.
Huge muscle. Excellent. So he's saying this is what an artist does. Maybe the artist is a thinly veiled reference to other poets. So picture a painter who's going to just make all these flourishes on the canvas. That's what these other poets are doing. But me, I'm going to play it straight.
I think it's more about the feels for him here. He's like, yeah, they're able to draw it, and you can look through their eyes and see how beautiful a painting might be, but your image is still laying within the shop of my bosom.
For through the painter must you see his skill, to find where your true image pictured lies. No, see, I think that changes the interpretation. Now that when a painter sees you, you have to look at his artwork in order to see what he's thinking, whereas with me, it's still in my heart.
I feel like that's what he's trying to say here.
I don't get this Windows line. The hath
Me neither.
is Windows. Have we even mentioned it yet? Like, really tried at this line? This line, it's like exactly in the middle of the poem, and I feel like we've at one time understood the end of it and at one time understood the beginning of it, but we have not connected the two sides because of this one line.
Yeah.
I've set the stakes really high here on Mike and Scott Read a Poem. Will they be able to figure out that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes? Let's see. Is that the exact wording that you have?
That's the exact wording. Here's my guess.
Yes.
When you've got a picture hanging in an artist's shop, a portrait of yourself hanging in an artist's shop, and you're on the street walking, and you look through his front shop window.
Hey, there's an artist. Let's take a look at his art as I'm walking by.
Yeah, exactly. His windows are then glazed with my eyes because, it reflects an image back, and you can see my eyes are glazed over looking at his images because I think the image is so beautiful.
Glazed over is a good thing?
Yeah, I think it's
No, don't get it confused with glazed donuts, which are a great thing. Glazed eyes, that's good. That means what? Like you're maybe about to cry?
I prefer crumbed.
If it was a choice between not having anything at all and having a glazed donut, what are you going to do?
Yeah, you're having a glazed donut.
Okay, gee, you took so long to answer. Okay. So glazed, what do you think glazed means? I always, when you have glazed over eyes, I always thought that meant you were bored.
I don't think this is referring to glazed eyes. I think it's glazed windows?
Okay.
You know how when you're looking through a window, you can kind of see your reflection?
Yeah.
And so your reflection's covered with eyes. I don't know.
I got to get this off my chest real fast. Another thing that bothers me about this line is that it's not 10 syllables.
That's really, really frustrating.
It throws me off. Hey, the word after glazed for you, it's just the word with. It's not the word within.
It's with.
I wish it was within. Because then it would be that hath his windows glazed within thine eyes. And it would be 10 syllables. But instead it's hard to read. That hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. Feels wrong.
Yeah, you're right.
Feels wrong.
What a mess.
Okay, what a mess. What a mess this poem is. All right, so the painter's windows are glazed over with the subject's eyes?
Because there's so many people looking through the window at his works. It's a guess.
Or that you've looked over his windows that many times.
Yeah, that could be too.
You have glazed his windows somehow by looking through his perspective. I don't think we're going to do it. I don't think we're going to get that line.
Yeah.
Should we look up the word glazed and see if there's some sort of meaning we don't know? What if it means something like referring to a poet's desire to...
Oh, there's a lot of definitions here. Let me
they're
see.
probably all similar.
A glassy coating of ice, a smooth, shiny coating, glassy film, as one over the eyes.
That's what we thought it looks like, but again, what is the emotional substance of glassy eyes?
Oh, that you're like crying from beauty?
So you're saying glassy eyes is when you're about to cry.
Yeah.
So your image is so beautiful that the painter himself is misty because of your image. And it could just be the way your eyes look.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have pretty eyes.
Yeah, I like that. I'm stamping that as approved. That's Mike approved.
Just say it again.
That is Mike approved.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was hearing that. I'm assuming that's a new catchphrase. You're going to hear it all the time on the show now. So you're accepting that he is crying because your eyes are so pretty.
Yeah.
Wow, that was like the simplest explanation out of everything. Okay, it's nice just to have an explanation, and then when we see that it's wrong, we're like, okay, we were wrong.
Yeah,
It's not as fun to go into it with just, nope, I give up.
Yeah, and at least we, took a stab.
Yeah, at least we had something that was Mike approved. That's all you could ask for. So from the top of that quatrain is, for through the painter must you see his skill to find where your true image pictured lies. So do you want to go with you have to see things from the painter's perspective, or do you want to go with you have to look at a painter's actual art to see what they see?
Yeah, I think that is the line where he's drawing the difference between a painter's image of art and my heart drawing your image on it.
Okay, so the painter does this, which is fine. I'm not going to say anything
yeah,
bad about it.
the painter, the only way that you can appreciate a painter's work is by looking through his perspective, through his eyes.
Yeah. Which in my bosom's shop is hanging still, so I haven't even used the inspiration that you've given me.
Yeah, it's just chilling in my heart.
That hath his windows glazed with thine eyes, where that guy over there is weeping about how beautiful you are. I'm playing it cool.
I'm excited about that. I like that.
That's how I'm interpreting it now. I'm playing it cool. This is Shakespeare going, yeah, everybody's falling all over themselves about you, but I took a good look. I liked what I saw. Tucked away in my heart for a while. Keep you real inside there.
Now see what good turns eyes for eyes have done.
That's where I thought it was about you looking through my perspective. Mine eyes have drawn thy shape, and thine for me are windows to my breast, where through the sun... So, mine eyes have drawn thy shape, so me looking at you has given you a identity that you didn't have before. You are now this person who is admired by me, and has a piece of art hanging in my heart. Mine eyes have drawn thy shape, so I've looked at you, and that is my painting. Mm-hmm. And your image, for me, is a window right into my heart. Like I can see my life force because of you, where through the sun delights to peep. It's all open. It's right up to the sky, up to the sun, to gaze therein on thee. Or maybe it's just the sun's looking down on you, because that's what you are. Anyway, yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art. Again, a painter, really good at looking at things. They're going to look at you in an even better way. They draw, but what they see, you can't really believe what you see all the time. No, not the heart, because they don't really know what they see. They're embellishing it.
Book by the cover thing.
Yeah. Or even if you're saying you can't judge a book by its cover because you're not even interpreting the cover of the book correctly. You're doing it too emotionally. You need to step back and take a look at that cover again. Really focus on that cover. Okay, now you could judge the book.
And go.
All right. So is there any other words that we could look up, or do you feel that we kind of...
I want to give our final thought and then go to the true definition.
Go to the
internet definition.
Yes. It's the infallible word of the internet.
We could put up a website of our interpretations of this And someday, if somebody stumbles on it, they might think, okay, here's two guys that are really, really good at Shakespeare stuff.
Yes, have you ever read mnspoem.com?
Yeah.
They have really in-depth Shakespeare analysis. And there's a lot of analogies to baseball and Muppet Babies, which are two things that I had to look up because this is from 400 years ago. Apparently, Muppet Babies was some sort of hand-drawn cartoon based on handmade puppets. Only the cartoon version, they were little babies in a nursery. Whereas
true.
the puppet version, they were not babies. I don't know what they were. Frogs.
Were there ever any Muppet Baby puppets?
It's funny you should ask. And then we'll finish up our thoughts on Sonic 24. In The Muppets Take Manhattan, there is a scene where I think Kermit just starts to daydream. I think that's it. He is hit on the head in that movie, but I don't think this is when he has this dream. He just has a dream about all of the Muppets in an orphanage, and they're like playing around in the orphanage, but they're really cute. It's a little baby Kermit and a little baby Piggy and a little baby Gonzo, and they're so cute, and their voices are high, and that was a very cool scene. A few
They're
years
actually
later,
puppets, huh?
they're actually Muppets, yeah. Oh, there's no cartoons in the Muppet movies, especially when Jim Henson was alive.
Oh, okay.
But then when Jim Henson, he was still alive for Muppet Babies, I believe. They were like, let's do a cartoon version of that scene, and it's just a weekly cartoon, and the Muppets are going to go on adventures, and they're little babies, and they're going to use their imagination. It's a fantastic show.
I really, really enjoyed the Muppet Babies show, but I have a feeling like I was a little bit too old to like their show.
And the best part is, I'm older than you. And I just got finished saying what a terrific show it was.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I definitely watched it when I was too old. There's no question about that. All right, so those are our Muppet Baby thoughts. So were there any trivia questions that we should bring up for the Muppet Baby? Let's see. Was Jim Henson still alive?
Yeah, were there Muppet Babies that there was no Muppet of?
Okay, because the other way around, of course, there have been plenty of Muppets that don't have a baby version of them. But that's a good question. Was there ever a Muppet Baby that was not a Muppet? Like, did they have an episode where they had another cousin come over and he was never on? Very interesting question. I don't think so.
Was Ralph? Ralph was a
Rolf.
Muppet?
Yeah, Rolf.
Okay.
And he is in the Muppet Babies, yes.
Oh, it's Rolf, yeah.
Extra Muppet. Writing it down. So Jim Henson. We'll just give a little history. Maybe whose idea was it to come up with the show? I think Jim Henson was still alive, but maybe he wasn't. So we'll just find out a little Muppet Baby history for you, and we'll try to find out if there was ever a Muppet Baby that was not a real Muppet. But first, that's way later. First, we're going to go look up the real interpretation of Sonnet 24. Any last thoughts on Sonnet 24?
Oh, do we want to give just a last final statement on
Go
what
ahead.
we think?
Last statement. Go.
And go. Okay, so I think that a lot of what he's saying here has to deal with, or deals with the idea of the difference between an artist's ability to truly paint somebody's beauty and or Shakespeare's ability to soak in, the beauty of what I find beautiful about you, both inside and out.
That would be a good line if there was, say, a Leonardo DiCaprio from Titanic type guy, and wants to draw you, and he's trying to seduce your girlfriend, and he draws this beautiful picture of her.
Nice.
And your comeback is, all right, guy's a great painter. He's got skill.
But let me read you Sonnet 24.
Nobody knows how to look at you the way I look at you. And nobody has your beauty etched in their heart the way I have it. It's locked in there, baby, and it's never coming out. And I don't have to draw a picture to prove it.
Oh, man, that'd
That
be
work?
rad.
That would work?
That would work. You won me over.
So that should be a scene in in Titanic now. Billy Zane comes in and gives that speech, and Kate Winslet's like,
Zane.
whoa, I had no idea you were that passionate. Sorry, Leonardo. You seem cool, but I'm going to go be rich again because this guy's awesome. We're going to look up the real answer to Sonnet 24 and see if we're anywhere in the vicinity. Do you think we have a shot, Mike?
I think we got this.
You think we got this?
I'm pretty confident. How are you? How confident are you?
Not that confident.
Really?
We'll see what happens on the other side of the break. So we're back. First thing to point out that's kind of funny that in a lot of these sources it says that this is not a very popular poem. People don't really like it that much. They think maybe there are misprints. I didn't see anybody talk about that missed syllable in that line where there's only 9 syllables, but, you know, maybe if we would have looked
Maybe
closer.
you're onto something. Maybe when we write a website, we can mention it.
But people think that it's not clear whose eyes he's talking about at different times, and that's a problem that we had.
Yeah. I really like when we stumble, like when we kind of have the same problems that these Shakespeare genius interpreters in our mind have.
Yeah, like look at us. We're having as hard a time as they are. Good for us.
So yeah, there's kind of this stark difference between what the eyes can see in the interpretations versus what the heart actually kind of knows.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've seen, from the interpretations I've seen, it kind of looks like there's only 2 people involved in this sonnet.
Yes.
And it's, you know, the lover and the lovee. Each of those people have 2 different interpretations of, you know, the love that they feel. One is of what the eyes are observing and seeing, and the other might be, you know, what the heart actually feels.
The painter looks at you. If he's able to paint you realistically, that's the greatest thing that a painter can do. But it's even a higher thing that we're doing right now, because my eyes have drawn your image on my heart. So I'm using like my body to paint your image.
Yeah. And after reading the interpretations, I kind of feel like how visually stunning and beautiful somebody is, and how, you know, his eyes kind of interpret that beauty as something really beautiful as well. But at the very end, that little couplet where he says, yet eyes as cunning want to grace their art, they draw but what they see, know not the heart. You're hot now, but if my love is only based off of your looks, then in the future, my love better be based on something a little bit more than looks, because you're not going to be looking so great in about 2 years.
2 years, wow. Very short lifespans back then. Or he just had, his cutoff was like 19 years old. And he was like, no, you aged out. Next, please.
He
Please
wrote
keep the line moving.
all of his sonnets, and then once his lover hit 19, he's like, all right, next phrase
Goodbye.
of sonnets.
Yep. All right, I got 16 sonnets out of you. Next. Let's see how many sonnets I get out of you before you turn 19. Got to get writing. Well, that was one of the possibilities, that it has some idea of the passage of time that is going to be occurring around the corner, so that it ends darkly. But not all the interpretations were like that.
Mm.
One of them did say, I'm going to compare myself to a painter. My eyes have drawn an image of you in my breast. And the best thing that a painter can do is paint his subject accurately. But what I'm going to do is just paint what I'm going to paint, and you're going to see what I see through my art. Here's the great exchange that just happened. That you looking at my art is actually a window into my soul. By exchanging eyes, this has mutually benefited us in our relationship here. Because my eyes have created this image of you, and then by you accepting that, you have given myself a new identity, so your eyes are a window into my soul, and the sun shines down, and it's beautiful. But there is a catch, and the catch is that I'm only painting what I see, and I'm never really going to be able to know your heart. So maybe there's just a little doubt here. Like I'm putting myself out here, but, I'm never going to really know what's inside your heart.
Nice. Nicely put.
So those were different interpretations we found on SparkNotes, Shakespeare's Dash Online, and Wikipedia.
And Shakespeare's Dash Sonnets.
Shakespeare's Dash Sonnets. So those were the sources we used.
What's your overall rating of how we did today?
I'm going to give it another pretty good grade because the places that we stumbled are where everybody stumbled. So what do you expect?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give us B+.
So we're
or
grading on a
A-.
curve here.
Why? What do you think?
No, I'm just reiterating what you said. We're grading on a curve because we screwed up where everybody else screwed up, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I am. I'm grading on a curve.
Yeah, I feel good about our interpretation of this. I think we did as best we could with our, limited knowledge of the time period and what's going on over there, and Shakespeare himself.
And I bet you even the people at the time would still be like, what? It could just be like these personal inside jokes. And the person he wrote them to are like, yeah, I get that sonnet. And everybody else is like,
true.
what is this whole eye thing? Oh, it's this joke we do, eye for eye. If you knew us, you'd get the joke.
I think we did pretty well. Yeah, I'll give us a solid B.
Solid B, even worse than me.
But that's a good grade in my book.
Yeah.
As far as the sonnet itself, if we're anywhere in the ballpark of what we think this means, if we're kind of correct, I think it's a really, really well written sonnet. I think it's beautiful. Shakespeare's he's really, really good at what he does.
Little clunky on the wording this time. Little clunky Shakespeare. But it is a nice... It's actually a very nice sentiment. By looking at you, I almost create you and you create me at the same time. That's kind of sexy.
And one of the interpretations we saw hinted at the possibility that Shakespeare may have even made it confusing on purpose, so that you can understand the confusion of who is who in here. The reason why they say that he may have made it confusing on purpose is because he wanted you to think of them both as one, rather than two separate beings, right?
Yeah. Who are these? Whose eyes is whose? Yeah, exactly, said Shakespeare. Or maybe it was a mistake and later he told his friends, can't you see? It's like you don't even know, man.
I think a lot of artists do that, actually. I think, you can derive meaning from a piece of art years after it's drawn or painted, right?
Well, coming up after the break, we're going to derive meaning out of the Muppet Babies. And also, before the show, you asked me, or maybe it was the beginning of the show, who knows now. You asked me who won the World Series in 1983, and I didn't know the answer. So, again, my guesses were, and I'm so embarrassed if these are wrong, but I wrote down Brewers, Yankees, Cardinals. But I don't know if any of them are right. So we'll find out after the break. All right, interesting things about Jim Henson, and again, I have been embarrassed by trivia. So now, here's the things I've been embarrassed about. One, Billy Preston did Nothing from Nothing Leaves Nothing, and not Stevie Wonder. Mm-hmm. Second thing I got embarrassed about was that song, Every Time I Tried to Tell Ya. I said it was Neil Diamond. It's actually Jim Croce. Embarrassing. 3, one of the main characters on Muppet Babies was created for Muppet Babies. He wasn't a real Muppet. Scooter is a real Muppet, but his twin sister, Skeeter, is not a Muppet. Just for the cartoon, so that's embarrassing. A few other facts about Muppet Babies. It ran from 1984 to 1991. 8 seasons.
So how old were you?
When it started, I was 2.5, 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it ended, I was 10, so I wasn't too young.
Yeah.
However, I think I was watching reruns after 1991.
You mean, like, you weren't too old, right?
Yes. I meant too old.
I agree.
At first, I kind of was too young. 3-year-olds don't need to be watching Muppet Babies. They can't understand. Yeah, they
3-year-olds don't need to be dealing with these themes.
Yeah, too much imagination. They're not ready for that. All right. So, all the other interesting thing, all the episodes in the first few seasons were written by the same guy. I think his name was Jeffrey Scott. I shouldn't have gone away from that page, but that's what I do. All the episodes in the first few seasons were written by Jeffrey Scott, And then around the 4th season, it looks like he left the show. I don't know if he was fired. I don't know if he quit. Another random trivia fact, one episode was written by Chuck Lorre, who created 2.5 Men, and I think The Big Bang Theory, and I think Spin City. But I only think all those things. All right. Anything else about Muppets?
Nothing about Muppets, but I do know...
I'm sorry, there was one more thing.
Oh,
Muppet
yeah.
Babies was released 2 months after Muppets Take Manhattan, but Wikipedia said it was inspired by that scene. It's still funny that it just came out 2 months after this movie. Like, boom. So many Muppet Babies all at once. First a sneak preview, and then 2 months later, 8 years of Muppet Babies.
Nice.
All right, so go ahead.
Okay, so the 1983 World Series was nicknamed the I-95 Series. Does that give you any idea?
Yankees and Mets?
No.
Oh, okay. I-95. Oh, this shows that I don't know my freeways.
Yeah, how embarrassing.
Yeah.
You don't know where Interstate 95 is.
I-95. Well, maybe the Red Sox made it to the World Series? Red
No.
Sox?
It is... So, okay, we should probably preface this that Scott doesn't know who the 1983 World Series winner was.
I don't even know
doesn't
who was
even know
in the World
who was
Series.
in it yet.
But it's about the I-95. So I know they talk about it on the I-95 on my show on ESPN, on Pardon the Interruption.
Really?
And they record that in Washington, D.C., but they also talk about New York and Boston a lot. But they also talk about Chicago. Maybe the White Sox could have been in the World Series. There was no team in Washington at the time. Yep, okay, I don't know. I-95, my guesses are somewhere in New York, Boston, or Chicago.
It's in that area.
But I still don't have it?
Nope. So it's... The 1983 World Series was a matchup between the Baltimore Orioles
Oof, okay.
and the Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay. I didn't know that the Phillies were in there.
That's a lot of baseball teams all in that little area, though. I mean,
Yeah, well, that's where baseball started.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then.
Yeah, I didn't move out to California till, 1958. My mom's going to be so mad at me. She actually listens to this podcast, and now, this is terrible.
That's embarrassing.
All right, 58, 59, 59. First time they won the World Series was in 55. That's the most important thing. I'm talking about the Dodgers. All right.
Okay, so now that you know it's the Orioles versus the Phillies.
The Phillies. I knew that Cal Ripken Jr. had been to a World Series, and I think he won that World Series. So I'm going to say, I'm looking at your face now to see if I can get a little clue. And then who was on the Phillies? I don't know. Steve Carlton was a pitcher.
I can okay, so the Phillies had Steve Carlton, Joe Morgan, Tony
Ooh.
Perez, and Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt!
Ooh.
Nice.
Mike Schmidt.
I have one of his cards.
Mike Schmidt, yes. A lot of home runs. That's a good team. Who's on the Orioles? Is Jim Palmer still on the Orioles? No,
Yes.
he's got to be. He is?
Eddie Murray, Jim
Oh, he's
Palmer, and
good.
Cal Ripken Jr.
Oh, that's a team. Now, Cal Ripken Jr., not always the biggest offensive guy, but above average. I mean, better than Ozzie Smith, but fantastic shortstop. The Iron Man, never missed a game. You like how what I'm doing here is just showing you that I do know facts, but I don't know who wins this World Series. So tell me, do they have it game by game so we could do it that way?
Yeah, they do.
All right, game one, who wins?
Okay, so game one. Tuesday, October 11th, 1983 at Memorial Stadium.
Where is Memorial Stadium?
Baltimore,
What?
Maryland.
All right, so they have home field. Now it's Camden Yards or something?
So this was Phillies win 2-1.
On the road, they win game one.
Mm-hmm.
Big start. Game two, what happens?
Game 2, Wednesday, October 12th at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore again. That was Baltimore 4-1.
Tied it up. Going
No
back
need
to
for a
Philly.
ninth inning, bottom of the ninth inning on that one.
Don't need it. Don't want it.
Game 3, Baltimore 3-2.
They get home field back. I feel like it's going to be Baltimore. Come on, Orioles. Let's
Game
go, Cal.
4, Baltimore 5-4.
3-1 is insurmountable. Say goodnight. I think it's going to happen in the next game. I think Ripken's going to hit a home run.
Game 5, Sunday, October 16th at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Baltimore takes it 5-0.
It's over. There is no pulse anymore on the Philadelphia Phillies. They have gone to their eternal sleep. Man, what a sad way to end it. That's why I'm not a commentator.
No, that's pretty good, man.
No, it's way too sad. Why did I have to focus on the Phillies losing? Let me just focus on.
Could you? Yeah, that was how it was in like huge sports moments. The announcers just focus on the loser.
Yeah.
And oh my God, they lose.
Look at the guy from Germany. He's staring at Michael Phelps. He knows he has lost. He knows that he will never have the Subway commercials that Michael Phelps has, where Michael Phelps says, "You have to fight for that every last inch." That's a Mike and Scott greatest hits.
Oh, good job. Yeah, good call on the Orioles.
So, I didn't get the World Series, but that was really fun. You really led me through that World Series very well. Thank you, Mike.
No, yeah. That was all you.
You were reading Who Wins.
Yeah, but you were the one doing all the cool... we're going to get in an argument of who's better.
No, the more we argue, the better you say I did. So, see, I have incentive to keep arguing.
You were great!
No, you're wrong. I don't believe you. Make me believe you. All right, anything we learned from the poem this week?
That beauty is only skin deep.
Or that you and I should trade eyes sometimes because we will create new identities for each other. But as much as we do that, Mike, I'm never going to really know your heart.
My eyes can never know your heart.
And you, the audience, we will never know your heart. But we're all just going to try to get through this together. Here on Mike and Scott Read a Poem.
Ding, ding, ding.
It's obviously going to end with ding, ding, ding.
That's the lunch bell. Time for me to go to lunch.
All right, Mike and Scott, we got to go on break. Clock out, Mike and Scott. Got to let other people interpret some poetry right now.
We got to punch out.
No overtime this week, Mike and Scott. Boss didn't authorize it. Hey, we got to leave. Hey, audience, sorry, but we're going to have to stop analyzing poetry for now. The boss is kicking us out. But we'll get you next week on Mike and Scott Read a Poem.